Welcome everyone to this episode of the Palmetto Guardian. I'm Sergeant Chelsea Weaver.
And I'm Specialist Anna Grace Catoe.
And today we have some returning faces from, it's been a while, but I'll let them introduce themselves and then we're just going to get into today's topic.
Good morning. Sergeant First Class William Cox, Marksmanship Training Unit, Joint Force Headquarters.
Staff Sgt Kevin Pritchett, Marksmanship Training Unit, JFHQ.
Awesome. So if everybody can't tell already, we're going to be talking about everything weapons, qualifications, different stuff that's coming up. So let's just dive right in. Do you guys, maybe let's start with the tag match just so we can kind of get that out of the way since everything else might be a little bit more in depth. But for those of you who haven't been around a while or have never heard of the tag match, can you kind of explain what it is, when it happens, the process of applying for it, all that fun stuff?
Go to town, brother.
So the tag match, that's our annual combat match that we host. It's typically every year, the last weekend of February. It's a multi-gun match. We use all combat stuff, so M4, M17, shotguns sometimes, M110, sniper rifles sometimes. But it's a good time. It's a good opportunity for everybody to get out there and train, do things they don't typically do every day. But they get proficient with their weapons. They get to utilize them in a real environment, not just a stagnant environment shooting pop-up targets. It's really good, and we've been running it for 30 years. I mean, it's been going on for a long time, so we don't intend on it dying on our watch. So
no, it is the most fun, best kept secret in the Guard, in my opinion, because once we get a unit coming out there, they keep coming back, and spots run out relatively quickly. So we have to fight off people trying to put in multiple teams so that other units that aren't normally there and they hear about it and want to come out. We try to make sure that there's room for the new players in the game, because that's what we're looking for, reaching out.
So, but it's four-man teams competing probably 8 or 9 matches over 3 days. They get involved by submitting a team roster to the G3 Stowe. And each MSC is allotted one team up until we don't fill. Then we can allow multiple teams from the same MSC. But again, that goes out on the supplemental guidance. It's been out for a while. If you're interested, you can just send an email and we'll get you on the roster.
Awesome. So you said it's the last week of February?
Generally, every year it's the last weekend of February.
And then if they want to participate, they just go to their readiness NCO or somebody to contact you guys, or can they directly contact G3?
So kind of going off our conversation we had earlier, not a lot of people know about it, and we're trying to get after that so that the individual soldier at the unit level can know about it. But yes, they would get in touch. They would reach out to their trainer in readiness, whom hopefully has informed them that this thing is an opportunity that they could take advantage of, and then they utilize the supplemental guidance to submit the email for the team to get them on the roster.
Awesome. So is there anything else maybe that we didn't ask about that specifically that we should put out before we move on?
About the tag match specifically?
Yeah.
No, it's better to submit a team early than late. And if you haven't done it before, or if you're trying to get into it and you haven't participated before, just come on out. Just come on out, and I guarantee you that you will enjoy yourself. Now, weather, can't guarantee that. It'll either be very hot or snowing, one of those. But,
or raining.
It's going to be we try to bring in a little rain, but it is a great time and a great training opportunity.
Awesome. All right. Well, now that we've touched on that, let's move into the real reason why we're here. If you guys want to kind of go into our list of topics, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, we spoke, I believe the last podcast we spoke about the, I'm going to call it the new weapons qual. It's been 3 or 4 years now, but it's still new to a lot of us. We need to talk a little bit about that again. We'd like to get a little bit more into the 249 automatic rifle and how that fits into the new qualification, as well as the urban rifle marksmanship class. And Sergeant Pritchett has a pretty good grasp of what we as the South Carolina Guard should be expecting as far as the new rifle that we'll be fielding in soon.
Q2 of 2024. So
Yeah,
March, April timeframe.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's coming. It's like it's just happening, and it's happening fast.
Okay. So, like you said, we have talked about the new qualifications. So if you guys haven't watched that episode or listened to it, we can tag it to this one or link it or whatever. So go back and watch that. But we kind of want to move forward from that episode, even though it's been a while. But I know beforehand we were talking about things that were coming up with units that they were having issues with or needed more help with. Can you kind of go into those details?
I would like Pritchett to talk about the unit training plans, because that is everything that happens before you start training, and that's immensely important. And I think some units are kind of stubbing their toe on that a little bit and getting caught up. And then I'll jump in and talk about the actual 6-table activities and some things that'll kind of grease the skids for units, so they don't get hemmed up on a little get something caught up that really doesn't need to be a thing.
So yeah, the unit training plan, it's a document that they'll utilize and make sure they cover everything from start to finish over the course of what active duty uses is weeks. They accomplish the full 6 tables to get them to a qualified soldier in weeks. Guard, it takes us months, and we only have 2 days or 3 days in each of those months. So the units really kind of have to utilize the unit training plan to put it all on the calendar and get after it in some sort of method or way that makes sense. It covers everything from batteries to chem lights to targets and everything up to the individual soldiers getting after tables 1, 2, and 3 prior to going to a live fire exercise. And again, typically prior to the new qual, unit would go to the range. They knock all of this out in a day. It's really not possible anymore. You have to devote multiple drills to getting this accomplished. Tables 1, 2, and 3 can be done at home station if that's what you got. SHI Table 2, which is EST, that you can utilize the EST to conduct. And then 4, 5, and 6 is your Group 0 confirmation distance, practice Table 6, and your actual live fire qual. It just helps you lay it out, vans, vehicles, getting people transported, how much ammo you need, when you need to forecast the ammo, when you need to forecast the range. There's a lot that goes into it. A lot of these training readiness NCOs, because there's time windows that things have to be accomplished, i.e. ammo, you have to have that forecasted 3 months out. If you miss that window, your entire plan of this thing that you've put together, your yearly training plan, it kind of goes out the window, because now you don't have ammo to conduct the qual. So the UTP, we have it on the G3 Marksmanship page for anybody to use. It's kind of a go-by. It helps them get after this thing without having to beat their head against the wall. They don't have to reinvent it. They can pretty much just utilize it, just fill in the numbers, make it make sense, and hit the timelines in a way that doesn't have them frustrated trying to cram everything into 1 or 2 days. They can spread this thing out over several months, and a lot of especially the prereq stuff, they can do with sergeant's time. They can have the E5, the E6 go and conduct table 1 and 3 off in a room somewhere outside or whatever the case might be. It doesn't have to be a blocked time frame in the training calendar if your sergeants are getting after it, the things that they know they need to be doing. The reloading, the utilizing the gear, the utilizing the new barricades and things like that.
Let me interrupt you for a second. I want to jump back before you got too far away from it. He was talking about the unit training plan. So everything we're talking about, literally every single thing we're talking about is covered in TC 3-20.40. That's the governing document for individual weapon training strategies, which covers rifle and carbine. It covers the pistol. It covers 249 in the automatic rifle mode, not the crew served, in the automatic rifle mode. And then there's a few other things in there. Urban rifle marksmanship. We'll talk about that in a minute. But in the first part of the TC 3-20.40 is a section, and it covers specifically what we're talking about, the unit training plan. So Compo 1, active duty, works off of the T-week schedule. And in the book, it starts off like T21, right? 21 weeks out. And it has literally a list of things that needs to be done. If you do these things the 21 weeks out, you're good to go. And then it drops down to T20 or T20 through 18, and then 18 through 2. At Compo 2, the reserves, the National Guard, we go by months, not weeks, but the process is the same. 21. So think about it, 21 months out, right? Okay, that's a long time. We have to start thinking longer term, and the commanders kind of get it because they have to do training years, several years out, so they understand the intent of it, and this just folds right into what they're trying to do anyway. So 18 months out. Okay, you don't have to do ammo 18 months out, but you probably should be figuring out which range you're going to. For instance, in 2024, we're probably going to lose some ranges at McCready due to construction for a new GPMG range. We probably should think about that and put that into our planning. So it's all listed out. I mean, every single step is down to the round count. It's listed out. We just have to execute the list. Really, that's the hardest part. That's the hardest part for units, as far as the unit training plan. Part 2 of what we've been talking about is, okay, we planned all this. Now, how do we make this thing happen? Having a unit at company level, at least battalion level. So there needs to be a master marksmanship trainer at any company level or higher. Now, they probably won't be school trained yet because it's hard to get into class, but someone can be designated as to be the master marksmanship trainer, battalion or higher. Someone has to be the lead instructor, and the lead instructor needs to have assistant instructors because no one person can do this all alone, and they shouldn't be expected to. So you have a lead instructor, say, at any given company, and they need 4 or 5 assistant instructors. That lead instructor needs to be very familiar with whatever it is that they are MTO'd, so their rifle, carbine, or pistol, or 249, and kind of dig into it. I get it, it's an additional duty, but I feel pretty confident saying that the tag building is very interested in what units are doing to increase lethality and marksmanship scores in general. So time spent on that is most certainly not time wasted. And if you can get a instructor to get the basics down, the reloading, the fight up, fight down, shooting from the barricades, finding your positions and things like that, that's going to make a world of difference, because at the end of it all, whatever score the individual shoots, whatever score that the unit has, the percentage of qualification, all that is the sum total at the bottom of the receipt. It just tells you everything that happened before. Units that have miserable qualification rates, it just tells me that they didn't do tables 1, 2, 3, and 4 properly. That's all it tells you. And the adverse is true as well. I can tell that a unit went through the tables because they're rolling up with some pretty strong qual rates, real strong qual rates. So the system works. It's just we have to encourage the culture of the training sergeants and the COs and the first sergeants to have their sergeants, like Pritchett said, get the sergeants training time and protect it. Let them have their time.
I actually have a question. As far as going through, like, we're talking about like tables 1 and 3, because table 2 is EST, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're training with our soldiers on like basic marksmanship stuff anyways that people struggle with a lot, are there any resources that could be offered to the units or ideas of ways to improve like trigger squeeze or breathing, or to figure out really what's going on with soldiers and why they're struggling before you get down to the nitty gritty of actually that qualification?
That is So you hit on the single, the two parts of marksmanship that are absolutely fundamental, and everything else can go out the window. But the sight alignment and the trigger control that you just mentioned are the single two. But those are the two things. If I could get people to understand those two things, if I could walk up and say, "This is sight alignment, this is trigger control, do these things," everything else I say is basically repetition, because those are the two fundamental parts. That is the front and back of the marksmanship coin. You have to have both. Now, how can we help the units train those things better? On the skip page, it's under
SharePoint page.
the SharePoint page, excuse me.
G3 marksmanship training. We have a lot of things linked on there. A lot of things like drills and positions. That's a document that we have on there that you can kind of pick up and go with, and the sergeants can get after it in the sergeant's time. Because really the new qual is kind of broken down into two major factors of failure. Yes, marksmanship is the big one, and doing the group and zero correctly kind of gets you past that. If you can do the group and zero the way it's intended per the .40, I'm fairly confident you can hit targets at 300 yards. If you don't do it the way it's intended to be done, you're skipping it. You're not doing the soldier any justice, and you're not adhering to what the process that was developed by guys that are very good. And the second half of it is the drills and position piece. We probably actually see more people fail due to their lack of drills and positions, utilizing gear, and being efficient with the utilization of their gear than we do the actual marksmanship piece if they passed the group and zero side of the house first.
So what? I'm going to jump in.
Yep.
So what you're saying, grouping and zeroing, you can take that rifle and in a nice, calm, unrushed manner shoot 5 rounds in a group, and then you can move your sights to zero the weapon. You have grouped and zeroed. Very short answer. That's a key component. If you can't do that, if you can't shoot a group, your likelihood of qualification goes down pretty low. You get that part down now. Once you have the rifle right, what do you do with the rifle? The drills and positions, like he was just talking about, reload drills. People, so in the old, imagine, I don't know if you shot the old qual, but in the old qual, you take your magazines and you kind of stack it up beside you in the dirt or on the sandbag or whatever. All of that is out of the window. Completely unallowed. People will kick them off the range. Everything has to be in your gear. All your reloads come from your gear, right? Well, if you don't know how to reach in and grab the magazine in the prone and reload your rifle, you're going to struggle. You're going to struggle because you're reloading a magazine and changing positions at the same time, because that's the window when your targets are down. You have a little window of time. You have to do two things. You have to change magazines and change positions. And if you can't reload, or you're trying to load it upside down or backwards, or you drop it, or it's full of sand or something and you're tapping it, you're going to get in trouble, because when you get off of the rhythm of the targets, the wheels fall off. Everything he's talking about, the drills, the positions, PMI, trigger squeeze,
position,
all that is in what we call the blue book. So what he was just talking about on the SharePoint drive, there's a blue book, a green book, and a yellow book. They all look similar, but the state shield is blue for the rifle one. It's green for the pistol, and it's red for the 249 AR. So if you're doing a rifle, just look at the blue. It says rifle, Sergeant Sgt rifle carbine. Click on that, and in Table 1, there's a pretty comprehensive selection from the Army Marksmanship Unit's Gold Book. A lot of colors in this conversation. And the Gold Book, which is their instruction manual. And we took some selected portions of that because it's really an excellent document and explains a lot. So if you can get that, just hit it, print it out, and roll through those things, you'll be well ahead of the curve. And
the Marksmanship Master Trainer and his AIs, his assistant instructors, that's why they're so critical. That's why they're so important. They're the dudes that know how to relay the information of sight alignment, trigger control, position, those things to the individual soldier, and kind of
Tell me.
Make it for that soldier, because not everybody's running through the same issues. Not everybody's having the same problems. The AIs need to be the more experienced guys, the guys that enjoy it. They're the ones that they think they're good. They like to think they're good. And so they take.
And some of them are.
And some of them are. And they take that passion and help a guy or girl out that is maybe struggling. Because that person, if they're struggling, they may not even know how to take the information from a piece of paper and apply it to what's going on with them. Because a lot of times when you're not shooting well, you don't really know why you're not shooting well, unless you're already to that skill level of being fairly good and you can kind of self-address. But the Marksmanship Master Trainer and his AIs, they're the ones that are going to go into the information and have a way to tell the soldier the things they need to hear for whatever.
Diagnosing an issue in shooting is something that we would love to see some type of computer program or software or hardware address, and it can't be done. It's too much of a human skill, and there's too many variables in it. So it takes a human to talk to another human that's shooting and work through the situation and see, is it the weapon? Is it the shooter? Is it position? Is it their eyesight? It could be any number of things. And what we found is helpful is the more instructors you have that are not only knowledgeable, they have to be knowledgeable, but they have to have a certain amount of empathy. They have to be able to communicate well. When you have different people, for instance, we have gone to the range and we've had somebody come up to, hey, go down to position, number 15. They're struggling, and so I'll go down and I'll talk to them and try to see what's going on, and I will use words, and they will be English words, and they will be in some type of comprehensible sentence, but it doesn't connect with the soldier, perhaps. And then Pritchett, if I can't diagnose what's going on, or I don't think so, or they're not absorbing what I'm trying to tell them, we'll just swap trainers. I'll go pick up one of Pritchett's people he's working with, and he'll swap out and he'll talk to them, because it's like a key in a lock, right? The words I were using were correct words, but he uses different words. It means the same thing, but his key shape's slightly different due to the different words he's using, and it unlocks the idea for the shooter. And they're like, oh, you mean focus on the front sight? Well, I said focus on the front sight like 200 times, but he'll say it a different way. Can you see a grain of sand on the front sight? No. Well, I just put a grain of sand on the front sight. Oh, I see it. Yes, because you're focusing on the front sight. So different instructors will teach almost always the same principles, but we use our own perspectives to it, and it can help somebody figure out something that they're struggling with. That was a really long answer to a very short question.
That's what we're here for.
Well, I mean, I think we've pretty much successfully kind of tackled what we were initially tasked with doing, which was the rifle qual. When the .40 came out, Sergeant Major Gregory, recently retired Sergeant Major Gregory, kind of set us to task with getting after what the mass majority of South Carolina Guardsmen utilized, which was an M4. So, hey, let's get after that qual. It makes the most sense. Cool. I think we've pretty much gotten it. We've at least...
There's some momentum in the rifle section right now.
We've at least laid out a pretty comprehensive path for people. If they do it, they'll at least get there. At the same time, though, they introduced the same thing for pistol and the same thing for 249. We have kind of shifted a little bit of our focus from rifle to now include pistol and 249 in the individual rifleman role, automatic rifleman. And so pistols, I don't think there was that much like disparity, like a difference that we were beating our head against the wall or anything. Granted, we're trying to make it, the state's trying to make it better and easier for people to get after, to do the group and zero, because now you do a group and zero just like you do with rifle.
No, you don't. Just a group.
A group, that's right.
We're not moving the sights.
We're not moving
we are
the
not
sights.
armors. We do not move the sights on pistol. I said that clearly for the record.
Okay. So we're trying to make that more easy, and so everybody might not be aware, but we have a range right next door to our grouping range, or our qual range, and we're trying to make a grouping range right next door on Kazarine Pass. And so that will streamline that whole process. But other than shooting, they did add a target and at another distance in the actual qual.
In the pistol qual, yes.
In the pistol qual. But other than that, really not too big a deal. But we're seeing some issues now that everybody's kind of coming to the same understanding at the same time that, oh, wait, there's this 249 qual, and it doesn't conform to anything we've ever done before. It's really nothing crazy. It's just nothing like anything we've ever done before. For instance,
let's just start at the beginning.
Correct. Other than everything being the same, but once you get on the range, things change dramatically. The 249 now, you do group and zero it, and you group and zero it with individual rounds fed by a magazine. There's hiccups there. We've already run into issues because the 249, it doesn't exactly like to be ran by a magazine. It wants to destroy the magazine.
And it does.
And it does destroy the magazine. We've learned this because we've done it, but units will figure it out pretty quickly that it's going to eat magazines up. Then beyond that, once you group in zero, then you, just like your rifle brethren, you head right over next door to your confirmation of distance and go straight into the same exact qual, just with a 249 with belt-fed ammo.
Back up for 1 second. A little bit.
Yeah, go.
If your unit is M249s in the automatic rifle mode, as opposed to crew served is not part of this conversation. An individual is picking that thing up and carrying it around. Congratulations, and also you're pretty awesome. However, your qual is going to be very different. You're going to qual right along with your rifle-toting compatriots. How is that done? As Pritchett said earlier, you're going to do PMI, you're going to do your tables, your PMI, you have a different test, there's different questions, but you will also go to EST. EST has 249s ready to go to do this thing, and you'll do the drills. Same thing, fight up, fight down, reloads. Your reloads are different, but you still do reloads. It gets interesting at the grouping and zeroing portion, which is table 4. A unit that has 249s can bring them right along with the rifles. Usually what we see is that they'll put a couple of 249s at one end or the other of the range. It just helps with policing brass and links and stuff like that, really. But they shoot 5-round groups just like the rifle does. Now, you don't load 5 rounds in a magazine and press the trigger and hope you get a group, because you won't. So what you have is you have an A-gunner behind them, which is, technically not an A-gunner, but you have a safety or someone behind them loading single rounds into 5 magazines. And so what they do is the 249 shooter gets on the rifle, they use sight alignment, and they press the trigger, and they shoot 1 round. And the units that have done this before, the shooter stays still, and a person will come and reload for them, because in that way you're not breaking your cheek weld and moving your position too much. So somebody else will take the magazine out and put a fresh magazine in there, and you shoot a 2nd round. Someone else swaps it out again. You shoot a 3rd round, a 4th round, and a 5th round. That's your 5-round group. Just like the rifle, except slower and different. And that's how you group and then consequently zero the 249. And it's a doable thing. It is a doable thing. As far as the qualification goes, tables 5 and 6. At table 5, you should be using a magazine in the kneeling portion of it. Some units are doing it. Some units haven't picked up on that yet. That's what the book requires. But as far as the qualification itself, you use 4 50-round belts. So you have 200 rounds. You have 4 50-round belts. So the rifle shooters have 4 10-round magazines. They shoot 1 shot. The 249 automatic riflemen are expected to shoot 3 to 5 round bursts, 10 times per engagement. Your prone unsupported, kneeling and standing. So you shoot your 50-round belt, and then you do a reload just like everyone else on the line is reloading a magazine. You're just reloading a belt of 50 rounds. So there is some different things. There's a couple other little tiny things in there, but once you grasp those points right there, that's pretty much it. And what else? What are we seeing?
Again, the drills and you got to do it.
The reloads.
I mean, the guys, they can't just get out there and that be the first time they need to conduct a emergency reload on a 249. They're just not going to get it done, and they're pulling from their kit just like they are with the magazines from the other side of the house. They're pulling from kit. They got to get that thing loaded, and it's for a 249. It's even more important because that's a longer process. For an M4 rifleman, that's drop, cram in, and drop bolt, and you're ready to go again. For a 249, there's a little bit more that has to be done, so it's even more important that these guys have done this before, so that they can stay on pace with the targets that are coming up and coming down. And again,
talk about that for just a second, because that's so we're finding that to be a make or break kind of thing.
It is. It's so in the past, a qual took 12 minutes ish, somewhere around in there. Mm-hmm. Now it's taking less than 4 minutes, and what we're seeing is
still shooting the same number of targets.
Number of targets, but they're coming up faster and there's less pauses. They're coming up in singles, doubles, triples, and quads. And if, say, for instance, just to give a scenario to kind of paint the picture, if a soldier was to not engage a target or engage a target twice, he is now off count with the next amount of targets that are going to come up till the pause and the amount of rounds that he has in his magazine. So if he gets off count, say he gets his initial pause to change positions and reload, he didn't get a bolt lock, he doesn't know to reload. He might hear some things left and right down range, and he might eventually look up and left and down range, and they're changing position, they're reloading. I didn't know I was supposed to do that because I didn't get bolt lock, because again, I either sent too many or held too many. And now you're behind the ball, and you've ate up 5, 6 of your 10 seconds of reload time. And so by the time you get in position, you probably got targets come up. They may be doubles, they may be triples, they may be quads. You probably didn't get to engage all of those. And again, now you're off count again. And so it compounds on top of one another. And so you're never probably going to get back on count after the initial time of getting off count. And we don't need to add that into the equation of a qual that can be difficult for people already, just for the marksmanship side. We don't need to add this other thing to the, hey, I just left 5 targets on the table. I'm already down to a score of 35, and I didn't even shoot at them because they were coming up and going down quicker than I can engage them because I was reloading.
The magazines and the targets are matched up. They're synchronized. Yep. You still have 40 targets, even though you have about a third of the time to shoot at them. There's still 40, and they come up and down in series of 10s. Like you said, it might be 1 and then 3 and then 1 and then 4 and then whatever equals 10, right? So there'll be 10 targets that come up, and then there's going to be that lull in time for you to reload and change positions. Your 10-round magazine should match up to those 10 targets. Your reload and position change should match up to that lull in time so that you're properly in your kneeling position, whatever, on the barricade, whatever, and you're ready, you're waiting, and you have a good natural point of aim, using the fundamentals that we taught, right, trying to get sight alignment ready, kind of aiming down the center of the lane, waiting for the next 10 to come up for this fresh 10-round magazine. In the old days, you could, I'm not going to shoot it to 300, I'm going to save it, and I'm going to shoot twice at the 250 because I'm better at the 2. It doesn't work. So the thing that we've found, just the little mantra, whatever you want to call it, just shoot 1 round at each target. Don't shoot 2, and don't not shoot. There's 1 target, put 1 bullet on it, and that will keep your reloads in sync with the thing. because I've seen some people and they're good, but it's very difficult for 4 targets to come up and you're still changing positions, and then you have to do a reload in the middle of the 4 and still hit all 4. There's not many people can do that consistently. So that's the key, is 1 round per target, know how to do your reloads. And that's, again, it goes back to what Pritchett was saying, the drills. That's a real thing now.
Is there anything else about those qualifications that you want to, or the weapons that you want to talk about before we go into the new M4?
So URM?
Yeah, URM. Real brief. It's the funnest class we put on. It is absolutely, and now it's the hardest class for us as instructors, but for the soldiers shooting it, it is phenomenal. What do you think?
Yeah, it is. I mean, so typically speaking, outside of like a primo process, or you go into some very rigid shoot house scenario or something like that, this is outside of that, but it gets you there. So as a qual, you have to have a qual to get you to some live fire gate that you want to do. You have to have URM,
Urban Rifle Marksmanship.
Urban Rifle Marksmanship. That is a gate to get you into a shoot house or any type of dynamic squad lane or team lane live fire event. You have to have done URM, Urban Rifle Marksmanship, and we do it. There is a test. There is a shooting test. We do it at night. We do it at day. There's a lot of shooting involved. It's a lot of dynamic stuff. A lot of moving left, moving right, turnabouts, turn rights, turn lefts.
Running, kneeling,
transitioning, running, kneeling.
It's a happening class.
It's a really good time, and the soldiers get a lot out of it. Something they're not going to get anywhere else unless they go some set specific unit or class that's what they're there to do. But as far as for what we can do in the state, this is about as good as it's going to get, and it's a good time, and we try to make it a good time. We don't try to burn people out and do things that just don't make sense. We're there to show them what you can do safely, but still get after like real world actual marksmanship, things that you will be doing, not laying stagnant behind a sandbag, engaging a target one at a time. We're more than likely we're going to be getting after it.
And if you're curious about what it is, it's one of the appendix in the .40 TC3-20.40 is one of the appendixes, whatever. Is one in the appendix section. Is Urban Rifle Marksmanship. You can look through it and see if it's something that interests you. A lot of moving, a lot of facing, a lot of shooting. Everything in there, we do it twice. We do it at the day, and then we pull out the night vision gear and the lasers, and we go after it at night. And that's what everybody gets happy about.
It's good stuff. We'll have one about once or twice a year. Goals 2 a year, but it can be tough. But 1 a year, bare minimum, and same way as the tag match, the same way as our IWTS classes, our introduction to weapon qual stuff. You just send an email to the G3 Stowe, we get you on the roster, and you can attend either of those courses, and those classes and course dates go out on the supplemental guidance every Tuesday. And but we've had a lot of good feedback from both IWTS Rifle, IWTS 249, and the URM course. That's all we got on that.
So that's an individual thing, like that they would
URM,
request to do. Okay.
Yep. As an individual, we do kind of try to limit the amount of people again to 2 people per MSC.
We can only run classes of 12 just to the size of the range, and we have to have like a heavy safety to shooter ratio because we're doing a lot of things that if they were not properly safetied, it could get unsafe, and we're not interested in anything unreasonable like that happening. So we have to keep the classes somewhat smaller.
Okay.
We're pushing them past something they've probably not done before. We're going beyond what they've probably familiar with which is good, right? Everybody needs to get after this because it's all pertinent. We didn't invent this. It came out of the .40. It's good stuff. It's just nobody's getting an opportunity to do it. The tempo of these units, the amount of metal tasks that they have to stretch across their 24 mutas, they don't have enough time to do it. So we hopefully can give them the opportunity to attend, and then they can take it back to their units and
share the wealth.
Yeah, share the information at the bare minimum. But you mentioned the new rifle.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about it.
The new rifle is coming. So this is the XM7 or the M7. It's the new SIG rifle. Fires the 6.8x51 cartridge. South Carolina, somehow or way, is on the very, very early end of receiving them, specifically our 4th Battalion infantry guys. They're going to be getting probably about 150 of them here in March. And it's a capable gun, firing a capable round. It's very different. We're going back to a more battle rifle style rifle versus a M4, which is kind of carbine kind of fire superiority was the name of the game when the M4 came about in Vietnam. It's like we need to put more bullets into the woods than they put it downrange at us, and we're going back to a more deliberate, focused round and rifle. It's like, hey, I see a guy at further than we can engage him currently, which is 400 yards before like an M4 round probably goes transonic. So slower than supersonic, not as deadly sort of thing. And now we're able to engage them with a 6.8x51 well beyond that, 500-600 yards before it goes transonic. And this just gives, we're matching at least the current, at least from Afghanistan. They were seeing that they were getting in a lot of gunfights past 300 into the 400, 500, and 600 yard range. And so that was their effort to get after engaging and be able to overmatch those guys with their firepower so that we weren't behind the balls per se. But it's coming. It's a good rifle. There'll be people that won't like it. There'll be people that love it. We'll see.
Is there not a new optic coming with that, or am I mistaken?
There is a new optic. So the Army's also being more focused or shifting focus to having variable optics. So this is going to be up to a 10 power scope. It's also going to have the ability to laser range find, and it's going to have an IR flood, and it also has a ballistic computer on board so that once the soldier lasers this target and the ballistic computer inside of it understands that target is, say, 450 yards, it will then drop a red dot in your reticle somewhere, and that is now your point of aim. It calculates the bullet drop and gives you a new aiming point, so that now that regardless if it's anywhere from 25 yards to 1,000, you know that if you're using that red dot in the reticle, that is where you're supposed to be impacting. And so it's taking a lot of the thought out of it. It's making it, how would you put it? It's like a level platform so that anybody can pick it up. It's very easy to teach. It's like, hey, just utilize this red dot. It's the lowest common denominator for marksmanship is in the system of marksmanship is always going to be the soldier. So they're trying to eliminate as many variables from the soldier's input into the rifle as possible. And so that's how they're getting after it with this ballistic computer and the 1 to 10 scope. And it should be pretty good. I haven't gotten to use the actual optic yet. I've seen it. I've looked through it. Looks good, but I haven't shot one yet. But when I do, I'll report back.
I believe Sergeant Williams shot one. Did he not?
He did the rifle. We've all shot the rifle. We didn't shoot the optic.
Yeah. So some of our people on the team have been to some schools, and they had an opportunity to at least shoot it in a familiarization manner, and it was there may I think, how did he put it? He said there might be a slight bit more kick, but the performance that you get out of it is way more than offset by that. So
but we're going from a 8-pound rifle to a 16-pound rifle.
Oh well, that's what I was gonna ask is compared to like an M4 and M16 size wise, like what does it look like?
It's chunkier.
Yeah,
It's not longer. It's about the same length, but it is a chunky boy. It's heavy. Again, this is a system. It's going to come with a suppressor, an optic, the rifle, and a round that is probably 2.5 times heavier.
Significantly heavier.
But
your ammunition load, I believe, is going to be less. It won't be 210 rounds. It'll be in the 100 and something neighborhood to try to alleviate some of the. And I don't think the 16 pounds is slick weight on the rifle. I think that's with everything.
That's a loaded
with the whole thing. But nevertheless, I don't think we should skip PT because it's going to be. 16 pounds will be 16 pounds at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day.
Taking off in a jog with a M4 in one hand is usually not that a big deal, but taking off in a jog with an M7 in your hand, kitted out, loaded up, that's going to be heavy.
Now, is that going to be standard across the whole state? Like all units are going to have that new rifle with everything, or is it just going to be specific units or based off your MTO?
Based off MTO, so it's very specific units. The Army reorganized and they came up with a thing, and it is labeled some other thing, and whoever those units are, they're going to get that. The 4th 118th, they fall up under the 30th IBCT or
Wisconsin. In the upper Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 30. They fall up under the 30th. And when the Army reorganized, they made them a heavy infantry penetration unit. And that is the goal, that these guys, the people that are MTO'd as a penetration unit, they're going to be getting the rifles. So like your light infantry bubbas, they're not getting them. Your MPs, they're not getting them.
Well, now I'm hurt because I feel like you just got me excited over something that I had no reason to be excited about. So
something tells me you'll probably shoot one sooner rather than later, but I think this is going to be, correct me
just
if I'm
initial
wrong again,
thing.
They're trying to get them out there, and we have some things we got to figure out, like ranges and SDZs and things like that, right? So there's a whole bunch of moving parts to this thing, and it's going to be a multi-year process before it pretty much saturates the state. So don't quit studying up on the M4 because we're still going to have them.
Even from the initial push, they're not thinking they're going to be done. It's not scheduled to be done fielding. Even the initial push, i.e. the guys that are supposed to be getting them, SF, Rangers, all that, they're not done fielding it until 2032.
Oh, my gosh.
So this is a very long process, and it may change multiple times before they've decided, hey, maybe some MPs need it or whatever the case might be. And then who knows, having multiple rounds in the future may not be something the Army's interested in dealing with, i.e. 5.56 in this new round. They may just go to the new one. And
we will have a period of transition and slight complication, I think, just logistically speaking. Mm-hmm. For instance, you're shooting a 6.8 by 51?
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to fit in your magazine pouches right now because 51 millimeter is much bigger than what we're currently using, 45. 5.56 by 4.5 is the length of the bullet that we're currently using, which fits in the magazine. The magazine's got to be bigger to hold the 51 millimeter length rifle. So there's just a ton of small things and a ton of big things and just a ton of things, but it's a happening thing. So there's that. Pretty cool, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like the past 5-6 years we've been in this huge transitional period of like everything in the military.
Modernizing.
Yeah, and it's just crazy to see like how it was when I at least first enlisted and to now where it's going and where it's continuing to go. Like the technology and the upgrades and stuff that they're trying to keep up with is just insane. And then like adding the guard into that is a whole other element, because it's like we saw it with the new PT test, now with the new qual, like all these different things that people are finally realizing, like, yes, we can change these, but we have to figure out how to make it work for everybody, because active duty is completely different than how the guard and reserves works and stuff like that. And so I don't think until things get implemented, those things don't come up, or they don't realize the actual things that they'll face with these changes. Because for active duty, it's like, oh yeah, let's go. Like, we can do this whenever we want, blah, blah, blah. Like, go for it. We'll do PT every single morning. We'll go to the ranges every week or whatever. Like, but for us, it's so different. So implementing these new things is that much more difficult. But I mean, I feel like we're kind of figuring out and navigating those ways and stuff. And it's always going to be a challenge for us, but we've gotten here. So,
and that's honestly kind of what we were tasked to do. Yeah, this rifle thing came about, and it was it was extremely different. It was a whole different animal, and that's kind of what we were tasked to do: figure it out, help the units, straighten the curves, smooth out the bumps. It'll be a long process, and we're not 100% there yet, but we're making progress. We've had, I'll just say, several other states reach out to us, and let's just say they complimented us on the progress that South Carolina has made in this endeavor, because there are some other states who are still struggling with some of the issues. I think that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm.
We seem to be much further ahead than most.
I wasn't going to say it like that, but you're right.
Well, I mean, we have been here for a while now. We have talked about a lot. So before we close out, is there anything that you guys would like to add? Definitely have you back on eventually once some of these updates and changes have been made and kinks have been worked out and all that fun stuff. But for the meantime, is there anything else that you guys would like to add before we close out?
I can't think of anything. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for letting us push some of this word out, particularly some of the things we found that are helping the other units. And if anybody has any questions, what is it called? It's not the skip page again. SharePoint. I cannot remember the word SharePoint. Look on the SharePoint, G3, and the Marksmanship Trainer. You have a little button on the right-hand side. Just click it. We got a bunch of stuff there. If you come to the tag match and you win, or you even show up, your picture will probably wind up on this SharePoint. There's cool pictures from last year. Look great. We look forward to seeing people there.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for coming in and talking with us. Like he said, if you guys are listening or watching, want to participate in the tag match or that course that you guys were talking about, reach out. Yes, reach out to G3, or we'll have their contact information in the description so that we can get you in contact the best way possible. But all right, if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, and we will catch you guys in the next episode.